1. This predates my working days and sits somewhere in the 90s. Let's just pretend that it was a little tiny bit ago instead of a nightmare-inducing decades ago that makes us feel so old. So most of the dialogue I am putting here is more of a what kinda happened rather than any real memory of actual words being said. Anyways, I was literally pre-job young, I think 15 or 16. Being a bookworm, gift cards, new technology, no longer made out of paper, to my local Narns and Bobles, were like diamonds before a dragon. Mine! Since my family really liked encouraging my bookworm tendencies, a hoard of birthday and Christmas gift cards could easily run well over $100. You can well imagine that I was one of those people who wished they had a real full-on shopping cart to fill. But sadly, not to be offered in a bookstore. Still, there was pretty much, I thought, no way to be mistaken for an employee. I had no uniform, no name tag, and no fanny pack around my waist. My baby face meant that I probably looked around 12, and I was carrying a basket of books I was planning to purchase. I even stopped frequently to read the summary on their inside cover or on the back. I had amassed a weighty collection to satisfy my bookworm heart when another customer comes up to me. While this predates the Karen phenomenon by also a goodly bit, I shall refer to her as Karen. Can you tell me where to find the importance of being an asshat? I can't, I'm not an employee. You can ask them at the information desk, though. I point out the info desk, which is a whole 15 feet away. I don't want to walk that far, just tell me where it is. Lady, I don't work here. I didn't ask for excuses, I said to tell me where the book was. Congratulations. We have left all sense of reality here, folks. The one clear-as-day thing I remember flitting through my teenage mind was, I didn't ask if it was possible, I said do it. In a whiny adult voice. And I told you that I don't know. I walk away and select another book that catches my interest. Side note, my mom would turn me loose in bookstores and go hunting for books on her own. This left me to freely hit up the children's section, the young adult section, and the adult sci-fi and fantasy sections to my heart's content. So sadly, she wasn't close to Mama Bear her way into this. Hello, excuse me, hello! She follows me down the aisle, yelling and banging her fist on the shelving. Lady, I don't freaking work here, ask a freaking employee. I was a good girl and didn't drop F-bombs yet at this age. Kinda wish I had, looking back. The woman goes ballistic at me, and I have lost all coherent memory of her screeching mouth words. Just a memory of a manager who arrives at a dead run, probably thinking somebody's getting murdered. This little bitch needs to learn how to treat paying customers better. I will not be disrespected by some minimum wage snot-nosed brat. The manager looks at me, looks at Karen, and then says, Ma'am, this is not one of our employees. She's obviously too young. I didn't ask for excuses. She was rude to me, and I won't stand for it. You fire her right now, or I'm calling your corporate office. There's that disconnect with reality again. I didn't ask if rocks floated. I said, make them float. Screeches the imaginary woman in my teenage mind. And while you're at it, I'm sick of water being wet all the time. The manager turns to me. You're fired. Disgust and loathing rolled through me, and I gave that manager a full dose of teenage attitude in a single look. He wouldn't even meet my eyes. The Karen strutted off like it was her birthday, and I got a tiny, weak-ass 10% coupon for the trouble. To this day, decades later, and having worked my time in the retail trenches, my hatred of this manager grows ever stronger. I firmly believe that this was the Queen Karen, and all other Karens that have spawned since are her descendants, created by spineless pandering from retail managers just like that manager. I know years later that I should have called corporate and filed a complaint against the manager for throwing a customer under the bus. I also know that I should have gone to another store rather than use my gift cards there. This is all hindsight. At the time I was a young teen and these things just didn't occur to me. The idea of complaining to corporate wasn't on the average public's mind quite as freely then as it is now. Edit. From the comments, I'm kind of amazed at how many people think the manager did the right thing. This Karen epidemic is caused by managers like him, who make Karens think they can get away with screaming abuse at people they think are employees. I guarantee every Karen ever behaves the way they do because they learned that throwing a tantrum will get them their way. And Karen's stories only start with screaming abuse. The Karens who escalate to physical attacks do so because they continue to be rewarded for their behavior. They are placated and reassured, and get that lowly peon fired so they believe they have some modicum of power, and it goes straight to their heads. Two. In these turbulent times, I was hoping to provide my fellow heroes with some entertainment in the form of my misery. All names have been changed to protect the victims. Mike is a great guy, chill as hell, good manager. Kept ordering DDS, store supplies, on the lock so the rest of us didn't have to worry about it. So how could this have happened? He knows we order cardboard boxes in units of bundles, not individual boxes. Why did he type 500 into a text box that autofills to 50? Why, Mike, we trusted you. One breezy September evening, I answer a call. And yes, my friend, it was 10 minutes before the end of my shift. How did you know? It's Sherry, the spirited UPS lady with the winning smile. But she doesn't sound like herself. She asked that I have a couple of people ready because our receipt was going to be a lot. Sherry, you were right, but you weren't honest. Couldn't you have told me that at that very time rumors were swirling from the loading dock through the bowels of the mall that with so many boxes we must be going out of business? In my sweet innocence, ignorance, I did what every slacker with a heart of gold manager would do. I grabbed two of my favorite buds so we could chat shit and carry in some boxes and snag some time away from customers. Andy, Gary, I'm so sorry. I just didn't know. The back door buzzes. Andy opens the door and he and Sherry look at one another in silence. Gary and I lean out for a peek. Sherry's pushcart, about the size of a small car, is stacked full, higher than her head, all bundles of boxes. Well, okay. Then we heard the wheels. Oh God, the wheels. At least two other UPS guys with two more carts came. "We have even more coming up from the truck," Sherry said with great bravery. "All right, let me tell you what you want to know. 25,000 boxes. 25,000 boxes. 25,000 boxes." The clock struck the hour. I should have been clocking out. Where will we put them? To break the silence, Sherry asks the obvious question. Why? We had no answer. That day, boxes were, of course, put into backstock, piled 20 feet up thanks to a makeshift staircase that we made out of boxes. They were also put into the office, the bathrooms, a vacant fitting room. We toyed with giving a bundle of boxes away as a gift with purchase. Maybe we could burn them in the parking lot. Run into other stores and drop them like reverse shoplifters. How did this happen? It took 6 people about an hour and a half. But we did that shit, dammit. Perhaps we were high from the smell of cardboard. But at the end, we all just stood around and laughed. The UPS guys took pictures of our box towers. Otherwise, nobody would believe them. We climbed to the top of the tower for a photo shoot. We called the associates back to check it out. Then I clocked the fuck out. The following day, Mike had to witness his sins. He also had to rent a U-Haul, with our pizza party money no less, grab our most jacked associate, and drive them all across town to a different location with a big basement. A total of 50,000 boxes were lifted by them that day, if you count the loading and unloading. Our team elected to use the final pennies of our party money to get that associate a Starbucks gift card, with a little help of our own money on top. Fellow heroes, I am now working at that location with the basement. When UPS arrived my first day, It was the driver's first day too, a young lad of about 30. So innocent. After we exchanged pleasantries, he had a question for me. "Hey, is this the store where that box thing happened?" 3. A little backstory first. I am a teacher at a middle school in a medium-sized city in Texas. Teachers at my school have a decent dress code. For men, dress shirts and dress pants are recommended, but solid-colored polo shirts are fine as a substitute. I am a hefty-sized man with a neck thicker than my skull, so I generally opt to wear polos for comfort reasons. We're also required to wear a lanyard with our school ID at all times. This happened a few months ago. One day after school, I needed to go to Walmart to pick up some supplies. But I also like to browse the aisles looking for anything nerdy. I like to decorate my classroom with nerdy items. My kids like to point out all the decorations, and I get along really well with my students. I am slowly walking through the aisles without a basket because I didn't plan on getting much. I only needed a few things for school. Near the pharmacy, a man around 40 came to me and asked where he could find clothes hangers. I was kind of stunned for a second, thinking, why is this guy asking me? I told him I think it's the home decor section, but that I wasn't for sure. He thanked me and left. I thought it was a weird interaction, but didn't think much of it after that. Later, I'm at the electronics section, and an elderly lady came up and asked me where she could find light bulbs. Again, I thought, why is she asking me, especially when there is a Walmart employee 15 feet away behind the electronics desk? I actually knew where it was, and pointed her in the right direction, and off she went. I then thought it was so weird that 2 different people came to ask me for help. Being that I have lived in Texas my whole life, I was familiar with the kindness of strangers, and thought it was just a case of that. I am not one to turn people away without at least attempting to help. After I collected my items, I headed to self-checkout, and waited in line for a register to open. The guy in line behind me decided to strike up a conversation, starting with, "Just getting off work, huh?" I was confused at first, thinking, how did this guy know I just got off work? How does he even know where I work? Then I remembered my school ID badge. I assumed he saw my badge, and being that this was right after school let out, it made sense. I told him, yeah, just getting some supplies before heading home. He then said, "Yeah, I used to work in a Walmart as a teenager. Not my favorite job." Huh? What does Walmart have to do with me being a teacher? I just said, "Cool story, bro," then paid for my items and left. On the ride home, I thought, that was the weirdest trip to Walmart I've ever had. Not including the time I was a teenager and my friends and I got kicked out for playing football in Walmart at 2 a.m. Story for another time. I got home and dropped my stuff off. That's when I realized it. I looked at the mirror and saw I was wearing a solid blue polo shirt, khakis, and I had my ID badge hanging on a blue lanyard. I looked like a Walmart employee. Everything made sense all of a sudden, and I saw all those interactions in a different light. I'm really glad I was so mellow about it at the time, because I can imagine after the 4th or 5th person asking me for help, I might have lost it and yelled at them saying, "What are you asking me for?" I later have gone to Walmart and actually looked at the uniform. They didn't wear blue polos and khakis, they wore any kind of t-shirt and jeans and a blue Walmart vest on top. While I can still understand people mistaking me for an employee, I was obviously not in the correct dress code. Thanks for listening. I hope it was entertaining. 4. So I was working at Staples today. Normal busy morning, sold some things, said hello to my regulars. 2 hours into my shift, my manager informs me that the men's restroom needs cleaning. No big deal, right? Wrong. Dead wrong. How bad is it? I asked. "There's poop all over the floor. It's really bad," replied my manager. Oh, brilliant. So I go to the janitorial closet to prepare a bucket, and lo and behold, the old mop had broken. I don't know how, but it was completely busted. I tell my manager, and we agree that I can go get a new one from the Lowe's down the street. Easy enough, just had to prepare. Before I go, I make an out-of-order sign and place the wet floor sign in front of the door. That's fine. I will get reimbursed for the mop. I take the 2-minute drive to the other store, get a mop, pay, shoot the breeze with the kind elderly lady at the register, who is equally horrified when I tell her what happened, and get back. I look into the men's restroom and gag. Poo Armageddon. It was all over the floor with a rather predominantly displayed shoe print in what I can assume to be the epicenter. He clearly had done this on purpose, as nobody in their right mind would want to step in their own excrement. The smell was foul, as if Satan himself had arisen in the poor bastard's bowels. I had to grab my new hat to cover my nose. For the record, it's one of those animal hats with attached mittens that can wrap around your neck like a cozy scarf, and rub hand sanitizer under my nose. I spent about 15 to 20 minutes cleaning it up, cursing the man who emptied his bowels all over our floor. A gentleman popped his head in, asking if he could use the restroom. I told him no, that somebody had pooped on the floor, and directed him to the women's restroom. I retched multiple times, thankfully not throwing up. Finally finished, I took the newly christened mop, honestly felt sorry for an inanimate object, and promptly soaked it in fresh hot water. I had my suspicions about who it was, as the man asked where the restroom was and disappeared for a while after purchasing a printer. No matter who it was, old or young, fuck you, restroom poop smearer. 5. I'm a DSD vendor, meaning I stock a specific brand of product only, without working for the place I'm actually stocking it. Name brands of beer, bread, snack cakes, chips, sodas, snack crackers, some cookies, some frozen pizzas, and more are stocked by DSD vendors, and typically wear uniforms branded as such. I get mistaken a lot for someone who works at any of my route stops, 10 to 20 oops stories per day. Most of them are just simple oopsie mistakes, and they move on, no biggie. Some people, however, seem to perceive this information as irrelevant. The cast today is just me and what appears to be a thinner off-duty Carl Winslow, with his entourage of the Amen section, who look the types who would say honey child regularly. We'll call the dude CNP for clearly not Poirot. Please do not interpret my recollection of his accent as critical. I genuinely love his particular way of speaking, and wanted to try to capture it. Act 1. So I was stocking my usual product, when CNP rounds the corner like he's in a hurry, and without missing a beat, asks me bluntly, "Tell me where that Kool-Aid at?" I pause for a second. I think it's on this aisle, actually. "Okay, now tell me where that flour?" Flour like for baking? That I'm not sure, as I'm not actually with the store. Don't really know where the other stuff is much. He just breezes on past. I resume my usual thing, thinking this may be one of the many ordinary encounters. He hunts down his druthers and disappears to aisles unknown, and I go to the back to get more stuff to stock. I see a gaggle of more finely adorned ladies turn around the corner, who I later discover are with him. They nod at me, and shop casually down a different aisle. Act 2. I come back down the main aisle with more stuff to stock, and he rounds the corner of the other aisle they were on, and asks them if they found any low-salt stuff, which that aisle is known pretty well for being high salt in general. He looks over to me. "Tell me where that is low salt." Low salt? What in particular of this stuff? "Yeah, anything on that low salt." We look around for a minute on the other aisle, just trying to help the guy out despite me being totally unfamiliar with that section. "I think the masses have beat you to the low-salt kinds of these items. Looks like they're sold out." "You gotta have some of them low salt somewhere around." We kept looking, and all the low-salt options are gaping holes of the swarming masses of panic buyers lately, and lower supply of the more niche versions of everything in general. Tons of the high-salt plain types, though. "My doctor done told me I gotta have low salt now. Gotta go damn low sodium now, you hear me?" I'm not with the store, like I said before. I'm with the vendor company, and I don't have any say in what gets ordered. And they wouldn't really listen to me anyway, considering I don't work here. If you want my expert medical opinion from the School of Groceries, I suggest you not even bother with this aisle at all. The entourage mutters in agreement with me.
Honey. It look like they out of them little salt. We better get him move on. He ain't even with the store. You hear? He even gonna know which salt is the kind. He ain't no dietitian. He with the vendor.
I must thank you and nod to the ladies as they nod back quietly with eye rolls and laugh a little. CNP grabs a few low-fat things and holds one up to me, showing me the back of it, pointing at the nutrition facts, which says 11% sodium, DV per serving. Sir, I don't know whether that's good or bad. I don't know if 11% is high or low for a long list of reasons.
That don't look like low salt to me. You need to tell them they gotta order more damn low salt. I gotta eat now, you hear me?
Sir, the stuff on this aisle is all junk food. You ain't gotta have none of this stuff. CNP and the entourage traipse off, and I don't hear anything back from them, and I take my stock elsewhere and put it out. At least I came away from it with a fun story to share that didn't get too heated, despite his apparent disregard for any facts anyone could offer him. It's a wonder that doctor managed to convince CNP to change his diet to begin with. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Adventures in Fast Food and Retail, number 91. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use and sent in stories for use in this video. If you have a story yourself you'd like to share, then please do send it along to kingofthecities@gmail.com. I'd like to say thank you very much to those who joined me for the stream while I was recording on this. One of those stories was, well, I think you know which story it was. I was a little reticent about how hard I should lean in on the accent. It came across as being kind of Cajun/Creole to me. So I decided to go that way with it. I hope that was accurate. I'm sure the author of the story will be able to tell me, because he actually spoke to the man and his lady friends, and I'm sure he'll know. He lives in that area, so of course he would know. All I can do is try my best and hope it turns out well. Okay, and with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.